Hello, my name is Adnan, and I chose to do my policy presentation on Everett Municipal Code 10.37.010. I've named this Trauma Uninformed Threat to Liberty or a Road to Recovery. What this municipal code is a basically a drug loitering law. So it states it is unlawful for any person to loiter in or near any thoroughfare place open to the public or near any public or private place in a manner and under circumstances manifesting the purpose to engage in drug-related activity contrary to any other of the provisions. So the first criteria would be if the police officer knew Bob and he knew Bob from the past that Bob sells drugs. So he could identify this person, that Bob, as a drug dealer and approach him that way. The second would be if the person's in an area where they're not supposed to be. It's a high drug traffic area. Uh, Third part would be so this is the really one. So if the person's such person behaves in such a manner as to raise reasonable suspicion. So obviously this could cause a lot of problems as far as what is suspicious activity. This is where implicit bias could come in, different racist cultural narratives around what is suspicious behavior. For So if the person is, if the police officer knows this person's part of a gang, so if there such a person transfers small objects in a furtive fashion. So once again, this is where implicit bias could come into play. If a police officer saw two white people exchange money as opposed to two black people, he might treat that differently just because we live in a racist society. Uh, so also criteria 6, if the person takes flight. And so we know one of the criteria for PTSD is avoidance of reminders of trauma. So if a person has a trauma response to police and avoids them, that could actually, I mean, obviously they're just going to re-traumatize themselves over and over again as they are approached by police, which is, they're avoiding police because they're traumatized by police. uh so also so if the it's an area of known drug trafficking activity, and then also if the person's car is registered to a known drug user. So there's a lot of constitutional issues with loitering laws. They're obviously like they have vague definitions, like this idea of what is suspicious behavior. And also there's a wide breadth. Basically, you could use it to approach somebody and kind of, it's like, kind of one size fits all thing. You could just, it's just a reason to approach somebody without any real probable cause. And also it goes against the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, meaning that every law is supposed to be applied to everybody equally. So if some people are being profiled more than other people, that is an infringement on the 14th Amendment. So history of loitering laws in Everett. So Everett has a rich history of loitering laws, going back all the way to this idea of the romanticized hobo. They would sing these communist songs because they were seasonal workers. It was the IWW, and there was often clashes with police because they would sing these songs, and it was a matter of if there's freedom of speech of having liberty to be in a place as opposed to the public's liberty of not having them there. So the law I'm talking about dates back from 1989, the 10.37.010. There are more recent laws in 2021, no sit, no lie ordinance, essentially making it illegal to sleep outside. And so also there's different soda laws, and that means stay out of drug area. And those appeared in 2023. There are some older ones, but the ones we're talking about now are 2023. And so these newer laws in 2023 were in response to the Blake decision of 2021, where the Washington State Supreme Court struck down felony possession charges for drugs. Basically, the Supreme Court of Washington State decided that it's hard to show intent, like someone could have a drug and not know they have it. So it's hard to prove someone's intention of having the drug because they could have it without knowing it in theory. Uh, and so a bunch of different cities, and so for a period, drugs were there was a lot of gray area, and so Everett passed these council bills making it illegal to use in public, and then also creating different buffer zones and a different and also a 30-day jail sentence for repeat offenders of people who, including people who violate 10.37.010. So these are the different buffer zones. Basically, if someone is in that area, they'll be approached by Snohomish County Sheriff and also Snohomish County Outreach Team. And initially, they'll be offered to be taken to the diversion center, which is on the other side of the Snohomish County Jail. The person can die and then just move on. But if they are repeatedly coming into these buffer zones, they can be arrested. And offered treatment, or they'll be taken, or either go to the diversion center or go to jail. So you can see loitering arrests were actually not that common before 2023. So in 2021, 2022, and then we see a big uptick in 2023 of these loitering law arrests. So what is the diversion center? It's a 44-bed facility. You can't leave there and come, like you can't come and go, and you have to be willing to go to treatment. So you have to be willing to go to inpatient, and they'll actually pay for 6 months of sober living afterwards. And there's like Bridgeways and different organizations that can help people find employment and other resources. So they have to be amicable to treatment. And so if you're there, they don't report about warrants. So if you go to the diversion center and you have warrants, they don't report them to police if you go there on your own. So I actually interviewed a Snohomish County Sheriff. He basically said that he doesn't actually enforce EMC 10.31.010. It's a Everett Municipal Code. He said he mostly enforces different trespassing laws, and he works with the Snohomish County Outreach Team, which are different case managers who offer people, different resources and take them to the diversion center. I also interviewed an Everett police officer. He was pretty sketched out at first, not going to lie. He said, but he did open up eventually, and he said it's hard to show intent for drug loitering, and often they'll couple it with using in public. So, or if they have like paraphernalia. And so in Seattle, they don't have drug loitering laws. They do have soda areas. So basically, a soda charge is if you are charged with like possession or selling or something, you're not allowed to be in certain areas. And if you are, you can get a soda order violation. Spokane does not have loitering laws. They do have did pass laws in 2023, like many other places, that made it illegal to use in public. And they actually initially were going to have loitering laws, but they struck it down. And this councilwoman said, and we were worried it had the potential for profiling. So loitering laws typically, so they predominantly affect people of color and people that look, unhoused. So it's very dehumanizing just to be approached because you look like, you're unhoused. And also this idea of like if they're, having reasonable suspicion, that could be like we were talking about before, basically the, implicit bias can play, unconscious narratives that police officers have that they may not be aware of. So it's, trauma uninformed, basically, like they can take them to the diversion center, but the diversion center also is much like a jail. It serves jail food. It's a lot like a jail. It's just like, in theory, you can leave. You can't come back for 30 days afterwards. And just being constantly approached by police over and over again and having these warrants for loitering and using it, just people get stuck in these cycles of just having warrants all the time and they can't get jobs. How this can impact clinical work. So the diversion center is a good resource for in theory, because people can go there and seek resources. But obviously, it's this law, this 10.30.37.010, it all is harmful because it stigmatizes and dehumanizes people for just being outside and just being human in the presence of others. It's open for abuse, and there are other more, the soda areas like that Seattle uses isn't ideal either, but at least it limits it to a specific person. Like if this a specific person is known to be selling drugs, they are not allowed in that area. So it's a complicated issue, and but overall, this is an old law, and Everett has a history of these loitering laws, just passed down from, the IWW and the Everett massacre and all this stuff. So it's a very complicated issue, and thank you. That's all I got.